Have you ever dated a 5th grader? Not when you were in 5th grade, but when you were in high school. What, you have? Well, this is just the anime for you. Kaho Nikaido is on her way transitioning into high school. One fateful day, she is rescued by a heroic young man. A beautiful young man who got her out of the way of a truck ready to run her over. She was instantly hit with love for the one who saved her. Thinking she would never see him again, she finds out her hero lives in the same complex she is moving into for school. On the spot, she asks him if he would be her boyfriend, and he accepts. For whatever reason. Everything is just the best for Kaho, until she finds out her newly acquired boyfriend is a 5th grader. Sure doesn't look like one though, does he? Most people will probably look at First Love Monster and think it's a yaoi or a reverse harm trash shoujo, but surprisingly it's neither of those. Instead, it's a rom-com with a twist that has pretty styled boys and men throughout the story. The concept of having 5th graders that are abnormally huge and matured for their ages is out of left field, but welcomed by me. I mean, not mature, they're far from that, but just physically mature, duh. I'm all for the strange but interesting concepts in anime, so I initially didn't know what to expect, really. But as soon as I understood the personalities I was going to be experiencing through this series, I was hooked. I was just genuinely so refreshed to have some overgrown kids acting like their proper ages. Child characters are usually side characters in most anime I watch, so their immaturity is very limited and brief. But this anime is completely focused on it. The humor is somehow more thoughtful than other childish appearances in anime, if that makes sense. Because they have so many opportunities to make the most of the situations and make these kids' misunderstandings go so far. And because kids are usually the focus, the humor is usually going to be fresh and not unoriginal, apart from when they repeat certain recurring gags. And this is also done on shoujo on top of it. The only problem is from a romantic perspective, the relationship has already begun. Usually that's a good thing in anime, but the problem is they hardly know anything about each other. They know as much as we do about them. But since they're already together, it doesn't leave much of a goal apart from getting to know each other and having fun times. However, Kaho will go along with Kanade's immaturity and not be truly enjoying herself. So it's more likely to go backwards than forwards in terms of their relationship. While other characters get development, Kaho gets pretty much nothing. Like at the beginning you hear about her backstory and stuff, but that is pretty much the extent that you learn in the series. Now from episode 1, you basically just know that she is a rich girl who is dating a 5th grader. Other than that, you know nothing of her hobbies, nothing of her interests. Like they might have brought it up in the beginning, but she doesn't expand on those points. She just brings them up in the beginning and nothing is ever explored past that. She has no motivation outside of her relationship, and even so, she just kind of goes with everything. That is her personality. She just goes with the flow. She doesn't have any individuality in her relationship, and she is just never in command. She is always listening to Kanade and following him along. You don't even know her past and what she is like to an extent, probably because the writer never had anything written for their backstory, apart from a basic cookie cutter. So Kaho pretty much needs to open herself up and be explained. Otherwise, she has nothing to her. There's one point later on where she changes, and it was exactly what she needed, but if there was a second season, then maybe it could explore her character more. Unfortunately, that moment alone isn't enough to validate her character for the anime as it stands now. If they gave her an internal conflict of her not being able to express herself properly, that could be interesting, because when the 5th graders talk with all their immature jokes and stuff, Kaho finds it really weird and everything, but she just sits there and accepts it instead of projecting herself. Now, Kanade is a breath of fresh, immature air. He has innocence to the extreme. His personality and motivation are clear. He is a simple kid who wants to have fun, and he's immature like any other kid. And because of that, he is so believable. Even though his situation of being that young makes no sense, Kanade is stuck doing as his mom told him before she died. However, Kanade needs to learn to be independent, so it's up to him to decide to follow what his mom told him or what his heart tells him. For the most part, the other characters have equal-ish development, apart from Taga. Taga started as an ass and I really didn't like him, but to my surprise he became one of the strongest characters in the show. He puts on a Sunact, but makes it clear that he isn't a threat later on. Because I literally thought he was going to beat up Kaho or something. though you learn why he treats Kaho poorly. Tsundere-type characters are adamant about not being honest with anyone, but Taga was able to open up somewhat about some things, which is a big improvement compared to normal Tsuns. The art style is very shoujo. The boys and everyone looks very pretty and sparkly. The background art looks nice, not necessarily the best ever, but you can tell they put in some good effort into the backgrounds. It also has these soft looking colors, which I imagine fits the shoujo theme. And they look good, they fit with the series well. The animation is fine, it's used and directed well, and everything works with the visual gags. I can't remember any standout moments, but I had no problems with it. The thing is that there isn't much motion and movement required because there's a lot of just talking, so they give the animation all that is really required of it, so it doesn't appear or need to be spectacular. First Love Monster was one of Funimation's dubbed broadcasts, so it has already been fully dubbed, and I found it to be excellently casted and acted. It isn't perfect, but the shortcomings are nothing worth avoiding entirely. Kaho's voice sounds like a girl trying to pitch her voice higher, and it's noticeable, but I still think she sounds good.
My, where would his wiener go?
Eric Vale as Kanade is perfect. He sounds so immature and performs so well.
Gin, I heard about your wiener. Wiener pain, go away!
The character Gin's voice is really deep, and because he's a 5th grader, I think it was kind of poorly casted maybe, but I think it actually complements the absurdity of it being 5th grade characters. So it's great!
Good for you. Be proud. You're climbing stairs to adulthood.
I could go on about the dub, but you get the idea. I think it's good. The opening and ending are unexpectedly awesome. The opening at the very beginning seems like a typical shoujo opening, but then the guitar drops and it's just confusing. The use of violins complements the guitar, I think. Then it does a bipolar of moods, being shoujo, sweetie, and heavy. The end of the opening when you see the main guys dancing and shaking their asses is so out of place. It represents the series too well, with some intense music having silly visuals. The ending theme is, for the most part, a static image that changes the focus of each shot. I'm fine with it visually though, it's minimalistic. The music is a heavy metal piece which is out of nowhere and completely contrasting to the show, just like the opening, but it adds to the bizarreness of the show. It's not fitting. Like the 5th graders label doesn't fit the 5th graders in the show. The song used itself sounds great. I actually prefer the ending to the opening and watched it each episode, which I don't do often. First Love Monster was an enjoyable watch for me. I like seeing the range of different 5th graders' minds and how they were portrayed. The only drawback I had was with Kaho having limited development and being indecisive. However, I could get past that, because I just wanted to watch more and see 5th graders misunderstanding things they haven't learned yet. I can somewhat forgive the series for having no conclusion or wrapping up, because it only finished airing in 2016, so it could have a second season. And also because it's a comedy, so the story isn't a driving force for me. Overall, if you want something that's funny and refreshing, and oversized 5th graders fits the bill, then chances are you'll enjoy this. But if you're looking for a typical shoujo romantic pursuit, want anything developed considerably concerning the characters, or want a tasteful rom-com that wraps up and has a conclusion, then this probably won't satisfy you. First Love Monster, I somewhat mentioned already, is licensed by Funimation, and you can watch it dubbed on their site. It's also available on Crunchyroll subbed and Anime Lab for those of you in Australia and New Zealand. Now excuse me as I have a date with my 2nd grader girlfriend in half an hour.
No one wants a wiener leaner.
Wiener leaner?